Heroes are the playable character part of the game. When we look at the sample hero card, after the first impression of that it looks awesome, the card gamers will quickly notice there are quite few card stats. From the card gamer's perspective, more stats parameters on the card can be seen as pros, because it allows more game design space for developer, which means more game mechanics can be developed. Hence, more unique game experience as game evolves or comes out with new expansions. Games like Magic the Gathering, Hex TCG has chosen to take this path. However, from the PvP card gamer's perspective, they can be double-edged sword. Too many stats can make the game too complicated and the overall experience to be less fun, as one may be too busy keeping track of the different parameters. Games like Hearthstone and Shadow Era uses this keep it simple type design style. So at the quick glance, Stormsunder may have went too far for its complexity from the card gamer's point of view, but in reality, this is a tabletop RPG, and from the RPG gamer's perspective, this just looks as familiar. Having said this, I have not played any tabletop RPG before, but even from video game RPG players' perspective, these multiple parameters look familiar. Having said all this, card gamers don't need to be afraid of this because parameters are layered, and during the battle events, many cases we only need to keep track and primarily only use standard stats. Let's first take a bit closer look at different parameters we see here. Each hero will have faction, race, and class. In card games, we often refer these as traits. Traits can be help creating an intentional synergy in a game by creating specific cards only usable by certain race or class, for instance. So balancing cards are easier to developer, and by ensuring sub-design space, unintentional synergy breaking game can be avoided. Hence, developers can make more stronger, unique type of games. Here we can see 3 human race cards from the game. Supposedly, one card from these 3 will be chosen when a race is a human. I'm not 100% certain if that's based on the player's choice or character based. Here we see faction specific card. We will come back to class concept later, but here are 5 class specific cards. Supposedly at level 1, Survivalist will start with these 5 cards. Heroes have 6, what I would call primary parameters or stats. These include strength, perception, agility, spirit, vitality, and charisma. Each of these parameters can be used during the campaign story part of the game for determining the consequence of an event branching point. But besides that, these parameters are tied to traits as well as everyone knows standard parameters such as hit point and attack power. I think this is where it gets interesting. At its base, all heroes have 3 points to all 6 primary parameters. In addition, 10 assignable points. Then each type of traits parameter gives various points to each parameters. For instance, being human race, Vanessa gets 1 for all 6 primary parameters, as well as 5 HP and 1 additional speed. Therefore, 3 secondary stats, or perhaps standard battle stats attack, hit point, and speed are really driven from other parameters. Basically, I see that character parameter or attribute have relationship like this. So why I have traits and primary stats bidirectional? This is where I said we will come back to class. Vanessa is survivalist class, but each class has statistic requirements. For survivalist, she must have 5 strength, 7 perception, 7 agility, and 6 vitality. But if she can choose a class, it grants heroes plus 6 hit points and 2 speeds. Unfortunately, their maths don't add up right now, but I am sure it's just a typo or error. But basically, Vanessa gets certain primary stats values based on a race and the faction. However, it is most likely not enough to grant her a specific class, in this case, survivalist. Therefore, she used 10 assignable stat parameters to meet the required goal to become the class. Now, as a player, we do not have to worry about all these math, as the card simply depicts all that. So why do we care? Or why am I excited to see this detail? I see there are 3 reasons why we care as a player. The first is game balance. Following a specific rule and system, the game balance can be better. If one starts to assign random numbers and later adding more or stronger cards, all balance can be suddenly broken. The second is game design space for a developer. Obvious guess here is system like class change. The higher elite class will require better parameters. The third point is perhaps a stretch, but it excites me the most. Explicit rule for character parameters means we can create our own character without breaking the game balance. Being able to create our own characters means one can start creating own story scenario, as we have seen in games like Gloomhaven. There are many talented people out there for perhaps writing stories, coming up with unique scenarios, and even drawing and creating custom character cards in the community. At this point, the game is no longer just a developer build. It becomes a platform or environment people can create and continue evolving the game. Will Stormsunder reach to this level? I don't know, but at least its hero design seems to provide such potential.